Noswaithar, good evening everyone, and welcome to my Facebook Live. And we're having a Panad, a cup of tea with a regular guest. And this week my guest is from Men's Sheds, who've been here in Westminster with their 10-year anniversary, and I'm sure Rob will talk later as to what was happening 10 years ago. But first, a little bit of an update on my weekend on the island and the last few days here in Westminster. On Friday evening, I had a fundraising event at the Trial Bay Hotel. It's really good fun, the Rotary Club, and I managed to win a night at the Gadleys Hotel and also a meal at Catch 22, two of my favourite places. On Saturday morning, I held my cost of living event in Amloch. Thank you, Dioconval, to all of those organisations that supported and all of those that came along, and particularly to my staff. That's my second cost of living event. I've just been to see Mel Stride, actually, the Secretary of State for DWP, and I was talking to him about my over 50s jobs fair, which is Thursday the 29th of June. That's going to be at Holyhead Town Hall in the morning. So if you're interested in my over 50s jobs fair, do sign up for my newsletter, and you'll receive all details in that. And then on Saturday in the afternoon, I was at the Vintage Rally at the Mona Showground. That was really brilliant fun, and looking forward to many events over the summer at the Showground, and particularly hi Elian, particularly the Anglesey Show, which is I think it's the 15th and 16th of August, and I've got a new tent there, so looking forward to that. Now, this week in Westminster, I started yesterday meeting the Minister, Graham Stewart, regarding the Holyhead Hydrogen Hub, and then today we had energy and net zero questions, and I spoke to the Nuclear Minister, Andrew Barry, who was one of my guests a few weeks ago and has got the office next door. And we talked about Wilver and the significance of Wilver, and he has agreed to come to the island to visit Wilver and see firsthand why it is one of the most important nuclear sites in the UK, and if not Europe. This afternoon I went to an assisted suicide event and with Prue Leith, and tomorrow I'm on the Welsh Affairs Select Committee. We've got the Welsh universities will be speaking about funding, and tomorrow is also Welsh Questions, just before Prime Minister's Questions, and I'll be talking about the transport infrastructure and our resilience, and particularly over the last 24 hours we've seen how important the Menai Suspension Bridge and the Britannia Bridge are, particularly if we're going to get much needed investment relating to the Freeport. So do watch Welsh Questions tomorrow at 11:30, just before Prime Minister's Questions. I've had 4 PMQs so far this year, and given there's 650 MPs, I think I've had more than my fair share, so I probably won't be getting too many Prime Minister's Questions in the near future. But also tomorrow I'm welcoming Ocean Roberts and Phil Ogden are coming to PMQs, Prime Minister's Questions. I love having guests coming to see me from the island. I'm here, as you'll see, Rob, I'm here in my office by myself. My team are based in Holyhead, so I love having guests come and have a Panad with me and a catch up on the terrace. And then tomorrow afternoon I'm going to the US Embassy to speak about Wilver and talking to them about energy. And then in the afternoon I'm going to be seeing the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, at number 10 Downing Street, and I'm taking Fliss Roberts with me. It's an event to celebrate our small businesses, and I'm really proud we've got so many fantastic small businesses on Anglesey, and I'm looking forward to going along with Fliss. So now it brings me to Men's Sheds and my very special guest here, Rob Lloyd. Now, when the island first elected me, I got in touch with Men's Sheds up in Amloch at the Copper Men's Sheds, and mental health is something that's really important to me. As a Member of Parliament, there are things we have to do, and there are things we do because of our life experiences, and I can see the importance of Men's Sheds and mental health. But it's fantastic to have you here as my guest, Rob. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Which is very kind. I'm very new to the role. I chair the UK Men's Sheds Association, which is one of 4 national bodies across the UK that supports the growth and development of men's sheds. So although the community sheds that are nearest to you on Ennismon are not members of the UK MSA, we work incredibly closely with Men's Shed Cymru, the body that does support those sheds.
Excellent. And then, so why are we here in Westminster today then?
So today was a double celebration for the UK Men's Sheds Association. We were founded exactly 10 years ago, so we came in and very kindly hosted by Baroness Tanny Gray-Thompson in the House of Lords to afternoon tea. We also took the time to do our Shed of the Year celebrations, so a series of awards that we offer to sheds for the best volunteer of the year, the most effective community partnership of the year, and a range of other things, and the overall Shed of the Year 2023.
And one of the things, Rob, that I was surprised at was the variety, the different sheds, and how many of the sheds sort of work with their local councils, whether it's for benches, whether it's for helping with signs, helping in the community. There's one of the sheds that supported, well, I think it was like 20 young students to actually help them with the skills and really sort of upskilling the next generation. So there's I think that was the surprise to me, was they're all different sort of shapes and sizes. I think you call them shedders, do you?
We do. So the members of the Men's Shed movement tend to refer to themselves as shedders, whether that's the origins of the movement in Australia or whether that's the current incarnation in the United Kingdom. Shedders is the term of preference. And you're absolutely right, Virginia. The saying goes, to paraphrase from elsewhere, if you've seen one shed, you've seen one shed. Every shed is unique, and what the sheds do is as varied as the number of sheds themselves. So many of them have a central woodwork focus, but an awful lot of them do all sorts of other things instead of or as well as the woodwork element. Big sheds, small sheds, so we have sheds that have over 100 members, and we have sheds that have as few as 10 members, often restricted by size of premises. But all of them in some way play a part into the community, and several of them play a massive part in their local communities.
And that's right. We have four men's sheds on Anglesey, don't we? So we have the copper men's shed, and hopefully we've got Kath Barrett on the Facebook Live, and that meets every other Tuesday 1 until 3 at the Williams VC hub, and we've got one in Beaumaris, the Cereal, and we have Holyhead and also Llangefni. So we have four men's sheds on Anglesey. So Rob, if people want to get in touch and find out when they're meeting and what sort of what sort of people are going along, how should they find out?
Yeah, so Men's Shed Cymru, their website has an interactive map just by postcode. You can search on the shed nearest you. Likewise, you can do the same on the UK Men's Sheds Association, where we map all of the sheds, regardless of whether or not they're affiliated to us in the UK.
And if someone goes along, they find out, going every other Tuesday to the Copper Men's Sheds up in Amloch, and they go along, what sort of thing can they expect?
Yeah, so a warm welcome. The fundamentals of the shedding movement are about men getting together, and not exclusively men, but fundamentally men getting together and sharing experiences over a cup of tea. The whole concept of sheds, which grew out of Australia, was the idea that men are generally less likely to open up about personal feelings, about physical health problems, about mental health problems, and men are less good, particularly as they get into later life, at curating friendships, or quite often in the aftermath of bereavement or retirement, finding that a certain sense of purpose is missing from their lives. And sheds provide all of that. Fundamentally, they're a sociable place, a companionable place, a safe space, and then whatever the activity is on top of that, which is fundamentally just fun.
That does sound like fun. And as I say, Noswathel, good evening to Jenna Evans, Penny Wellsby, Mark Hoshin, and Edward Peter Henry Bingham. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I've heard we've got Woody's lodges on the island. How do men's sheds differ to some of the other sort of support networks out there?
So I couldn't talk to you specifically about a Woody's Lodge, I'm afraid, but there are numerous different types of men's sport organisations. So it is a growing sense in the UK that we do actually need to focus on issues of men's health quite specifically. And there are a number of groups out there that focus on men's health, and there are a number of groups out there that focus on issues that men's sheds deal with across the genders. So we partner very closely, for example, with the Campaign to End Loneliness, because that's a fundamental issue for us. We also partner with things like the Men and Boys Coalition. We talk to groups like Andy's Man Club. Any sort of group that puts people together, and for us particularly puts men together in a situation where they can talk, open up, and experience a better life as a consequence.
And I think one of the sponsors of the event was the MP Nick, who runs the APPG for Men and Boys. That's right. So do you work quite closely with that cross-party group?
So it's something that we're getting into. It's something we were delighted today by the range of MPs that we had, and presence from the House of Lords too, and MPs from across all of the parties represented in Westminster by and large. This is an increasingly important issue for us, that we feel that, having spent our first 10 years focusing on the growth of sheds, which is fundamentally still going to be our business going forward, what we also need to do now is step up and be a bigger voice on the sorts of issues that affect men in sheds. And
we've got some great questions coming through. We've had some questions emailed through, but also Jenna Evans. Evening, Virginia. Hi, Jenna. Thank you for joining us. This is brilliant, she says. So happy to see there's something being targeted towards supporting men and their mental health. Amazing work. So I think you've certainly got a fan there, Rob. And
thank you.
So I think for me, mental health, one of the first things I did was launch a campaign to get over 100 people on the island trained in mental health first aid, and working with the local conversation project and Monsief in Holyhead, and it's been quite an important milestone, really. I think we've had over 120 people have been trained in mental health first aid, but it certainly, it's in that, I think Jenna's point there about it being targeted towards supporting men, and that sort of joined up thinking. So in terms of what have you seen the benefits? Obviously you've got your personal sort of view and your personal stories, but maybe you could talk about some of the stories that were highlighted today at the celebration this afternoon.
Yes, of course. So in terms of individuals and the things that make a difference, we all, I think, are really quite aware now of the extent to which, for example, suicide is a huge issue amongst men, and it's a growing issue amongst men of the sort of demographic that Sheds focuses on in particular, not exclusively, but in particular. So we deliberately partner with organisations like the Zero Suicide Alliance, because we think we can play a part in quite deliberately helping Sheds to have the sorts of conversations that so often people simply aren't equipped to have. I can talk from personal experience of a significant mental health issue in my life, and only 2 people out of all the people that I spoke to during that period were quite explicit and knew how to talk to me about suicide. Even my GP wasn't quite aware. So the kind of online training that the Zero Suicide Alliance provides, it's free. It takes 10 minutes for the quick version. It takes 20 minutes for the longer version. Is the sort of thing that we push to Sheds and encourage them to do. And we also understand from a survey that we conducted just this year, our Health and Wellbeing group did a survey and got responses from 170 sheds across the country. And a significant number of those sheds had direct experience of supporting an individual who had intended otherwise to take their life, and a shed intervened and helped, and that individual was now moving ahead with their life. Statistics are, we could pick apart in an academic context some of these, but the fundamental realisation is that sheds can and do save lives. Of course, they also make that broader difference. So the stuff I was talking about helping people who have perhaps lost a bit of sense of purpose after retirement, or who are suffering post-bereavement and don't suddenly find that all their friends weren't actually their friends, but they're their partner's friends, for example, find new companionship and new purpose in a shed. And then the sort of impact, of course, more broadly in the community, the sense of well-being being that comes of being part of something that puts back into your community, being able to, even in the simplest terms, beautify the area you live by refurbishing the benches
Yeah, I
or
love that.
cleaning
Yeah.
up the area. Right through to the sorts of examples that we had today. Our winning Shed of the Year, congratulations, Bootle Men's Shed,
Yes.
Shed of the Year 2023. But that is an amazing place, an amazing community space that runs a tool library where people in a generally impoverished area are able to borrow tools they might not otherwise have access to. There's a campaign to reskill youngsters in the area. They pick up bikes that have been thrown away and refurbish them and repurpose them for kids in the foster care system. They provide refurbished furniture for people who've had to leave home quite often to escape domestic violence. Just incredible examples of, from the individual through to the community, of how they make that sort of difference on a person.
Yeah, no, it's speaking to some of the people today. I managed to find the Welsh contingent actually,
Right.
which was quite nice. So we had a lovely catch up. Elliot Williams says, never realised that there was so much help available for men. She says, thank you for this. So that's great. Another endorsement. Ken Chalice Jones, he mentioned the rail across Anglesey. Ken, so just on that. Absolutely, there are two groups on the island. There's one group that would like it to be a rail, heritage rail, and a second group, the very passionate campaign group. Both groups want it to be a multi-use path. I applied for the Restoring a Railway Ideas Fund. It was round 3. No other MP had been successful in Wales in round 1 or round 2, and I was the only MP to be successful in round 3 in Wales. So we had £50,000 from the UK government, and the Welsh government matched that. So there's been a study looking into the potential uses and the future for the Amloch to Gerwyn line via Llangefni. And Ken, we should hear from the minister in the. It's meant to be spring, so we should hear from him quite soon. And he's actually coming to the island shortly as well. To see various, I'm going to take him to Holyhead, to the train station in Holyhead, and I'll be hopefully taking him to T Croes as well, to look at that platform there and a few other things. So Ken, we should hear shortly regarding that. Frederica John, she said good evening. She missed the first 10 minutes. She's afraid, so she hopes she's not repeating something. She said it's good to hear that resources are growing for young males plus adults, and I think Frederica makes a good point in terms of, is this for older people? I mean, you have touched on that. We've got Kath Bennett in Amloch, and we've got women involved. I mean, is it everybody included, welcome?
Yeah. So broadly, the answer to that is absolutely yes. So Men's Sheds started as fundamentally an organisation to support specifically male issues, and I did touch on quite what that looked like at the start. But as the shed movement has grown, you'll find an awful lot of sheds out there admit women. Some of those that don't do so only because they are restricted by numbers. Maybe 10 or 12 members is the maximum they can have, and they're vastly oversubscribed for men in the area. And what those sheds that do admit women, which is probably most of them, will often do is have some mixed sessions and have some single-sex sessions, and that is simply because sometimes men still find it difficult to talk otherwise than in small groups of other men over a cup of tea. So the sheds provide them with that opportunity. And as you rightly said, we've got an awful lot of sheds that are led by women. There are a lot of women in leadership positions. We've recently extended the board of UK MSA to expand the number of women we have engaged in the board. So there is a broad appeal. On the age piece, our demographic is broadly men from middle age onwards, and probably the largest component of the men's shed movement is made up of men who have retired from full-time employment. But there are an awful lot of sheds that make specific connections with younger people. So one of the sheds that won our community initiative this year has a specific partnership to teach young people from the local academy skills that they can then take on into the rest of their lives, or potentially into trades if they wish to go their way. And there are a number of sheds that do that. There are a number of sheds that partner with local schools to build things, and in doing so have a multi-generational interaction with kids. And there are a number of sheds, an increasing number of sheds, that are admitting people who are still in full-time employment, and so the sheds are challenging themselves from where they might normally open on a weekday during the morning or during the afternoon. They're now opening in evenings and weekends.
Oh, excellent, that's good to hear. We've got to say good evening to Adrian Edwards, Kathleen Barrett. Hi Lydia Maguire, thank you for joining us. Oh, we've got South Stack Lighthouse and Visitor Centre. I had a fantastic evening with the South Stack team. And we've also got Mark Hodgson as well, so thank you for joining us this evening. More questions coming through. We have another one. Frederica is saying, how many volunteers are there here on Anglesey, and do you require more? Frederica, I think that might be a bit of a generic question, I'm guessing, and we always could do with more volunteers. It's been particularly tough with COVID. A lot of the organisations have been struggling to get support. And I recently went in to see the CAB, who had some additional funding recently, and it was great to meet some volunteers. And we're hoping to have a section in my Over 50s Jobs Fair on the 29th of June at the Holyhead Town Hall in the morning, specifically for volunteers. We'll have a few employers, we'll have the Job Centre from the island and the DWP team there, Tony Potter and his team. We'll also have some of the local charities that are looking for volunteers, and also the likes of sort of the U3A, University of the Third Age, and people looking to upskill in terms of their skills and their skill set. But certainly always looking for volunteers, Frederica, and I am going to be having another beach clean. Actually, it's going to be on Saturday the 15th of July in the morning, so please do sign up to my newsletter. Thousands of people across the island get my free e-newsletter, and you'll see all my events that are actually in there. But it'd be lovely, Frederica, to welcome you on Saturday the 15th of July in the morning for our beach clean. Always looking for more volunteers. Lydia, well done, both of you. Lovely message, Lydia. You're always so encouraging and so supportive. So one of the things I wanted to sort of say was, so we've got four on the island. So we had Frederica was saying about more volunteers. So say someone like Frederica wanted to start up another men's shed. How would she actually go about that?
It's a great question, and it's the core reason why the national organisations exist. In common, UK MSA and Men's Shed Cymru have an identical policy, which is that anyone can go onto their websites and look at the information we curate in order to help someone establish a shed. It's a grassroots movement. It is run by the people who are members of the shed. We don't own any of the sheds. Men's Shed Cymru don't own any of the sheds. But what we do is support the growth and development. So you can go online, you can access the stuff we have, really informative stuff about what you need to do to get a shed started, how to go about getting it off the ground, how to get other like-minded people involved, whether or not to register as a charity, how to start finding premises and funding. All of that information is available there. What we also offer in UK MSA is shed ambassadors. So these are experienced shedders, and we don't necessarily have them yet in all areas of the UK, but we hope to expand the programme, and they are fantastic sources of knowledge. They will have a couple of sheds under their belt, and they will be able to give really good advice about how to get things going.
Great, and we've got more people joining us. Simon Mays has joined, Tibor Farkas, and Jason Weeder. Jason, it was lovely to meet you at the CAB in Holyhead the other week. Thank you to you and your team for the fantastic job that you actually do supporting our community on the island. And we've got a question there from you, Jason. You're saying, great to hear of men's sheds, and you're talking about the support for ex-servicemen like yourself, and you're also a dad. He says, I wish I'd known about men's sheds sooner. It always strikes me how many mum and baby groups there are, But that's a really, really good point, Jason. Lots of mother and baby groups or sort of antenatal classes or toddler groups. But us dads are often struggling with the same sort of worries and stresses and sleep deprivation, Jason. But we don't just often talk. And says, thanks, Rob, and thanks, Virginia, for all you do for mental health. What can we do to support our men's sheds, Rob, apart from going along to one and sharing the information? Excellent question, Jason.
Yeah. So, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with that last part. Fundamentally, it is about going along, joining a men's shed and participate. You don't have to have an interest in woodwork or want to learn how to use a lathe or build a model railway or run a computer workshop or whatever it is that the shed you found or the shed you joined does. One of UK MSA's own trustees has been an active shedder for years and years, and he has no interest in the activities per se, apart from helping others. He enjoys the crack. He goes along for the tea. He likes to support it. He likes to be a trustee of his local shed, chair of his local shed, in fact, and do all of those things that enable other people in the sheds to keep going.
Now that bell, this shows that we're actually live. I did warn Rob this. We're actually voting. I've got 8 minutes to get to the chamber, so hopefully, hopefully we can wind up. Frederica says, thank you both for raising such an important issue, plus the details of Saturday the 15th of July when we're going to be doing a beach clean. But I want to say, Rob, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I think it's just great that you've been here celebrating your 10-year anniversary. You've come here on the ministerial corridor, sitting on my sofa. And I would say, if you've enjoyed having Rob here, or you've got other charities or organisations that you'd like to see on my sofa, either here in Westminster or we can do remotely based on the island, or any businesses, or even you yourself, if you yourself would like to be one of my guests, please get in touch. My article tomorrow in the Holyhead and Anglesey Mail is all about my Facebook Lives and have a Panad, have a cup of tea, or have a hot drink with Virginia. My next week's guest is going to be, I've got Kate Nichols, who's the CEO of UK Hospitality. So please do tell hi, it's the Stag Inn, one wonderful pub that does fantastic quizzes and raises so much money for charity. Please do jump on next Tuesday and let all of the tourism businesses that you know, places like the Stag, restaurants, any of the caravan parks, any of the tourist attractions, please do let them know that we've got Kate Nichols, the CEO of UK Hospitality, 6:30 next Tuesday. I've also got Wales FSB joining for another session, another week, and I've also got Wyn from Penryn Farm, who is going to be coming to talk about the Anglesey show, which is the 15th and 16th of August over the summer. So lots and lots of speakers lined up over the next few weeks, and I actually had lunch with the Secretary of State for Wales, David T.C. Davis, and he will be doing a Facebook Live too, along with Grant Shapps, the Minister for Energy and Net Zero. So I better rush now, but thank you so much, Rob, for coming. You've been an absolutely brilliant guest.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. And thanks, Kath Barrett, for joining too. I really appreciated you all joining us on my Virginia Panad Facebook Live. Diolch yn fawr.